Well, as always, there's a good story about residential living in Adelaide. It is a wonderful spot to live, no doubt. Now, joining me in the studio is Kel Spencer. Kel is Director of Propel National Valuers. Kel, good to have you here with us.
Yeah, thanks, Tim.
Kel, perhaps to get our chat underway, why don't you give us a little bit of a rundown on yourself, how many years in the business and so forth?
Sure, Tim. For me, it's 35 years. It's been a long run. And during that time, I've worked in agency and valuation as an auctioneer and salesperson in commercial property, industrial property and residential property. But these days I sit on the board and am a director and a shareholder of Propel National Valuers, and we're one of the fourth largest valuation businesses in Australia.
Okay. That's a busy man over the last 30 odd years.
Yeah, it's been enjoyable. Property's a lot of fun.
It is, no question. Perhaps Propel National Valuers, what are they, how long have they been on the scene in terms of your involvement there?
Yeah, we formed in 1st of July 2007, and we do have coverage in most postcodes right across Australia. Mm-hmm. And we have some 200 odd staff working in Propel. And we, of course, do a lot of work for the major banks.
Yes.
And I guess the business has changed, and now IT becomes a very big component of valuation work, just as it has in your area. Mm. And that's what keeps us going. We have a large research area as well,
right.
Headed up by Phil Reagan and James Spencer. And they post a lot of research to the web. Mm-hmm. And of course, keeping abreast of the valuation work, we need to spend a fair bit of time on the research side as well.
So when you do post stuff to the web, is that information that the public might access that might find useful when they're buying and looking at the market and that sort of thing?
Yeah, the public's very welcome. They've got full access to that information, and that's, as I say, Australia-wide. So
okay. Well, perhaps
it's good stuff.
Plug the website then. What's
www.propelvalues.com.
Oh, perfect. Talking banks and that sort of thing, Kel, how much has changed post-GFC in your field?
Yes, well, there has been changes. I guess the compliance and credit is now much more stringent. Mm-hmm. So from the bank's point of view, they're more stringent on their processes, and of course they insist that we are very stringent in-house with our own processes. So we've had to employ extra people and systems to make sure that that compliance is in place and it's very real and very measurable.
Right, okay. So in talking down to the grassroots level, and we're talking about valuing someone's home, a purchaser's just put a contract in. I see people running around with cameras taking photos of kitchens and bathrooms. I'm assuming that's because the banks want to know that there's some tangible evidence of the expensive parts of people's homes that are been upgraded and justifying valuations. Is that? Am I reading that correctly?
Yes, you are, Tim, and we're required to do a lot of photographic evidence yep. so that they can, I guess, witness all of that.
Yes. And
so the files are full of particularly photographic evidence and much more descriptive approach now to evaluation work. Mm-hmm. And of course, the amount of sales evidence is now critical, so mm-hmm. that we have analysed and we're able to demonstrate that, so the valuations are more of a speaking document than yep. Perhaps they were once upon a time.
Okay. What do you have an idea on the difference perhaps 5 years ago to now as to how long it takes to do a valuation?
Well, yeah, IT is a wonderful catalyst, and having access to a lot of the information and the systems and technology helps us to get through the work a bit quicker, so the valuers are more productive. Right. And we need to be, because our fees are now less than they were 5-10 years ago on a per job basis. So yeah, IT does play a very big part of that.
And I would presume on that basis that the banks aren't bullish about wanting to see.
No, it's more of a steady as she goes approach, and we have to comply with that. Yeah. So and back up with pretty solid evidence on every job we do. So that's important.
How are you feeling about Australia's economy in comparison to the rest of the world? We're seeing a lot of challenges out there across the world. You know, how are you seeing that, us responding?
Yeah, and I think Australia does get caught up, you know, particularly from a confidence point of view when we're reading about the United States and their challenges and Europe and so forth. It is a bit gloomy, but the Australian economy has fared much better than most global economies, and we think it will continue to do so. I guess within Australia it's been a two-tiered economy, with the resource-rich states doing particularly well, and certainly better than the non-resource states, and that's on the back of the China demand, which has eased a bit, and that's probably had some telling effect on our GDP.
Yeah.
It was zipping along there pretty nicely 18 months ago, but the last 12 months has been a pullback. But just in the last month we've seen the GDP increase to about 4.3%, and going forward our view is that probably around about 3.5%, which is still quite healthy.
Yes.
And quite strong. Here in South Australia, well, of course we had the news of Olympic Dam, and that I think has put a bit of a dampener, but not to be forgotten that we have a lot of other, you know, junior miners opening up and a lot of other resource areas that are going to assist our position here in South Australia. Not to mention all these winter rains are going to give rise to a very good bumper season on the land.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's going to be helpful too.
Well, that is a very good point, and I'm glad you mentioned the other mining endeavours around the place, because I think we've been fairly focused on the one and only announcement in recent times, so confidence is the key, isn't it?
Certainly.
Stay with us, Kel, because we are shortly going to talk some more, but now we're going to have a look at our Going, Gone segment.